This is where you're supposed to say, "Hey, everybody, how's it going?"
Yeah, that would normally be the case, but we kind of missed the cut point there. Hey, everybody, this is Fandom Empire episode 102? One?
I think 102. Sounds right to me.
We're missing the number in the corner.
It's 101.
Oh.
We didn't do Thursday last week.
You're right, we missed Thursday, so this is episode 101. That's where the
although you were on the Wastelands.
Right, we did a Wastelands episode. So this is Fandom Empire Live episode 101. Yes, I am your host tonight, Johnny V, and we'll get to the reason for that in just a few minutes. Joining me tonight, as always, are these two fine, lovely, friendly gentlemen. He is, first off, is the number 2 guy around these here parts. Tommy B, how you doing tonight?
I am hanging in there, Johnny. Just another day, another dollar for all the efforts. It doesn't make up for it, but you do what you can do, and you have fun where you can have fun with it all. Overall, I could complain, but what the hell is the point of complaining? You can always complain, but does anyone really want to fucking listen?
No, they usually don't unless they're the ones complaining.
Absolutely not.
I'm not the one. Nobody listens to me complain. I'm not going to listen to you complain. All right, and joining us is, of course, the third man. If you watched the Rick and Morty fan show before this, you have seen probably enough of his face, but don't worry, he's here for the long haul. Kieran, how you doing, man?
Oh, not too bad. Yeah, actually, I was wearing a sweater that I got. One of my fans, Lance, got me a Pickle Rick sweater, so I wore it for the stream, and then I was like, man, it's fucking hot. Like, I definitely had to change out of it. And my studio's in my basement, so it's not too bad, but man, it got hot after a while. So
maybe should have told them it's like 25 degrees Celsius up here already.
Yeah, well, actually, it's colder where he is. I think probably colder.
So I don't know.
Probably a little bit colder. Not cold enough to be wearing that right now.
It could very well be. Now, of course, we're gonna jump into this one in just a minute. But before we do that, we got a little bit of Fandom Empire business to take care of here right off the jump. And I'm sure you're all wondering why I'm hosting tonight. It's never happened before on this channel. If you've been around the Wastelands crew long enough, you've probably heard me in the host chairs do that a lot back when we were still on 1138, but that was many, many years ago at this point. But this is the first time that I've been in the host's chair here on the Fandom Empire channel, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering why. So to get right off the start, Fandom Empire is, of course, it's like a big family with a staff and everything, and we're going to jump in. This past weekend has not been good for the staff. We took some time, crafted a statement, and we're going to just read that as it's written because it's easier for us to just do it this way other than letting emotions out. It's unfortunately our regret to inform you that host and founder here at Fandom Empire, Sean, and his family are going through a terribly tragic time right now. Out of respect for them, we're not going to address what it is, and we're going to ask you guys to just let them have their time. If you want to send well wishes their way, if you have them on your personal Facebook, that's fine. If you want to post them in the den or send them to us on the Facebook page, we'll make sure they get to them as well. Obviously, it's a very personal situation, and it's very bad, obviously, since Sean isn't here with us. That said, Sean has made it very clear that while he is taking an indefinite leave of absence from all of the Fandom Empire shows, he will be back at some point in the hopefully near future. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are with Sean and his entire family during this time. Sean had a statement of his own he wanted us to read for you guys. These are directly his words, so I'm just going to read them, of course, exactly as he's written them. Hi all. I still don't have words for what's happened. I can't even begin to focus, and my emotions are everywhere. I can't even begin to think of being on air when feeling like this. Right now, the most important thing I can do is be there for my family. I will be back. I just don't know when that will be. I leave you in the more than capable hands of Tommy, Kieran, Johnny, Zach, and Mike. These guys will do a good job in my absence. I love this community, and I'm dedicated to Fandom Empire. However, I love my family more. This is the most difficult time for my family. I wish I could snap my fingers and make it better, but I can't. Until next time, take care. Sean. Okay, that was a bit harder to get through than I thought it would be.
But we got to keep going.
We got to keep on
The
keeping
show
on.
must go on.
Unfortunately, it's a reality of the entertainment business. So, all right, let's get back to a little bit of regularly scheduling programming. Guys, how's your weekend? It's been a solid week since either of you two were here on the channel. So, what have you guys been doing?
I know I myself, I hated that time off. I don't know why. I'm like, I thought of like 8 different show ideas I could do to make up another show and just like post it on Facebook and be like, you know what? I'm going to do the fucking, I'll make another show like to fill up my time. But, the weekend was really good. I actually took the weekend off, which I almost never do. I got my second COVID shot on Friday, so I was like not working the weekend because I know that I'm going to get some symptoms, and I was like a little bit rough Saturday. So I pushed all my Saturday plans to Sunday, and Sunday I planted a garden. I did a whole bunch of things, did a whole bunch of errands, but it was all fun stuff. Had a great relaxing weekend. It was great. I feel recharged after this weekend, so it was really nice to actually take some time to myself because my secondary job has gotten super busy lately.
Tommy, how about you? What have you been doing in the last 7 days?
Hanging in there best I can. Monday, stupid day. Students had a half day. We wrapped up for our school district the wife and I work for. Now I'm hanging around for the next couple weeks, helping schools wrap up, clean some stuff, do that, stuff like that. Make a little bit of extra money before I go on my own summer vacation. Hauling ass, that's for sure. It's been a year now. We're cleaning up all the. You might see some pictures of it. Looks real dystopian, like they got shields on desks and all that stuff. Well, something about them is they don't come up easy. And Tommy B was in a school today throwing a few desks around, getting pissed the fuck off because the fucking things don't want to come up. Like, you see me with a putty knife WD-40 yelling at a desk, pushing it halfway fucking across the room, getting pissed the fuck off. But that's the kind of me that I'm leaving behind till probably 5 o'clock tomorrow morning.
All right. As for me, I'm sure some of you guys, if you have me on your personal Facebook, you'll know that posted up a new Facebook group this weekend. I'm jumping in again on yet another new podcast, Inside the Handoff, a football podcast. We'll be starting up here in the next few weeks. We'll have our first episode. We had some really good creative meetings and plans over the last week, getting that all set up and ready to go. Now let's kick the show off into proper fashion. And before we do that, of course, this is Fandom Empire Live. So of course we're going to be interacting with you guys in the chat, and we're going to be answering your questions as you send them when we can. If you want to make sure that something you guys have to say is read on air, make sure you send us a super chat, or you can of course contribute if you have the means to our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/Fandom Empire. All right. We're going to jump right into our first topic of conversation here tonight, and I'm sure that a lot of people have a lot of opinions about this, and this is the question. What's better? What's better? The original Friday the 13th movie, the OG Halloween, or the OG Nightmare on Elm Street?
I have a question for you guys that we're going to give away in a minute, but do you guys both have the original movies ranked the same way you have the franchises ranked?
No.
Like
Maybe
if we were to
actually, now that I think, I don't know.
if we were to rank these three franchises, are they the same? Because for me, they're the same. So I just thought it'd be interesting to find out.
I don't think they are for me personally, just based off of one glaring difference between one of the franchises, and that I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan. And of course, the OG Friday the 13th movie is an anomaly in that it's not a Jason Voorhees movie, and that of course makes a huge difference in, its position inside the franchise and its effect on the ranking. So while I'd probably put the Friday the 13th franchise higher than, God, I might get lynched for saying this on this channel, above, in second place, above Halloween. That's right, Halloween is my third favorite of those three franchises. Sorry, guys.
What the fuck did you just say?
Right.
I said it.
Now that Johnny's been fired, we can get to the real.
Get us fucking canceled.
I will be
Oh my
expecting the
God.
lynch mob to show up anytime, but it's been my opinion. I've been like that for a long time, but I've always been the guy that says the negative things about that. I'm the token Halloween hater, even though I don't hate Halloween. I actually quite enjoy it. It's just, of the three, it's my least favorite. Not to say it's not amazing. It's just, of three amazing things, it's my least favorite of those three amazing things.
There's definitely people who feel that way. They're just wrong. That's all.
And then there are people who love the Leprechaun franchise, so I'm still more right than them.
All right. So, how do you want it? You want me to go first?
Yeah, you kind of started
ranking
a bit with your opinion there.
So, I have them ranked. At the bottom is Friday the 13th, then Nightmare on Elm Street, and then Halloween at the top, which is, much to the delight of most of the people, except for maybe Toronto Freddy in the chat. I mean, Friday the 13th, this is how I can explain it. This is when I was thinking about doing the ranking. This is how I can explain it. Friday the 13th movies start here. They go up a little bit, and then they crash big time. Nightmare on Elm Street movies, in my opinion, are fairly steady. Like, there is drop off, and there's ones that are better. There's ones that are There's ones that are better, but they're all fairly good quality. And we're not talking about the remake here. Fairly good quality throughout that. Halloween, I believe, has some dips, but it starts off way on top. Like, the OG is better than the other two originals, in my opinion. I love the second movie. I love the fourth movie. I do have a lot more love for the fifth movie than most people. The sixth movie, I haven't seen the director's cut yet. But anyways, that's how I feel about the franchises, and that's how I rank them. The start is the same. It's the same. I feel like the first Friday the 13th movie is pretty good. It's pretty good for the series. I like watching the Friday the 13th movies, but I feel like in total they amount to a lot of trash throughout the series. There's a lot of movies I'm probably not going to watch again unless I am forced to by this goddamn channel, and they're making me do that shit. But I feel like, yeah, I'm getting long-winded. I'm filling in the Johnny spot here. I'm just going to be long-winded with all my answers. I feel like
how it feels when I do it to you guys.
This is exactly like
Yes.
you have a drink break right now. That's because I'm doing the Johnny thing. Yeah. So OG Friday the 13th is a pretty good movie, but when it comes to slashers, I put it lower for the reason of that. There's no Jason, and so I'm like, I know what happens. I don't need to see it again. The original Freddy is very good. It's if not one or three or four are the best in the series, for my opinion. And the OG Halloween is fucking fantastic. And I've mentioned so many ways, like the music, the camera angles that they use in that movie are just like awesome. Just when you see inside the house and they rotate around the house to show you what's going on, they show you so many hidden Michael Myers hanging out in there. And so that's what takes it for me.
Tommy, how about you?
It's been a number of years since I've seen the first Friday. Not Friday, I'm sorry. First Elm Street. Just going off of my experiences, though, I'll definitely say that Elm Street has never really sat up there with me as not among. It's not like I hate the horror franchise, but to me, it just doesn't compare with Halloween and Friday, and even more with that. Friday just doesn't compare to Halloween for me. I mean, maybe I'm a cookie cutter horror fan. What's your favorite Pokemon? Oh, Pikachu. but but for me, Halloween just has always come out on top, even before I, started staking more interest into horror as a genre, um, and even more for work on the channel that we do here. Halloween to me has always been the most engaging horror film. Speaking about 1978 specifically in this instance, you know, Friday's great. I love Friday. I love Jason. In the chat, who the fuck said it? Frank Riker. Ms. Voorhees is overrated with her kills being lackluster. The only reason why she is infamous is because she had a child with her brother who looks like something from Wrong Turn. I kind of side with that. Ms. Voorhees, yeah, she was interesting. She was an interesting character, but just doesn't compare with what you get out of Jason. Now, a lot goes into Jason. A lot of it being promotional, a lot of it being just the development that all the different films have, allowed to a certain extent. But that's where I sit. Halloween 1978 on top. Then you got your Friday, and then I'll throw Elm Street in there.
I mean, I think having had time to sit on it since we got straight, I said franchises as a whole where they rank for me, and that's true. I've always been an Elm Street guy first, and then a Friday guy, and then Halloween. But like like Kieran said, it's kind of because of the ebbs and flows of the franchises. By the time Halloween movies were coming out when I was a kid, I didn't have the appreciation for the originals that like Sean had. Where my first experience seeing a Halloween movie in present was H2O. And didn't exactly endear me to the franchise.
My first was Rob Zombie, and I still kept watching.
But I mean, I think for me, looking back on them, thinking about it, having listened to Kieran and listened to Tommy, I can say that my ranking for the individual original films is completely different than my ranking for the franchises overall. I think purely based on the first entry, I think Halloween is the best of the three because it is an amazing movie, and I think Halloween is detrimental because it got worse. It pretty much started up here and then went down immediately, whereas Friday the 13th kind of started here and then immediately went up with the introduction of Jason, whereas Nightmare on Elm Street, where it started at a high point. It just kept going up for the first, I'd say, 4 movies and then hit the cliff. And that it was a very steep drop off once you got past Dream Warriors. So it does affect the differences of the franchise. And I think saying that the Halloween was the best is because you're right. It encaptures those emotions. There's so many of them that are just so good. You can feel the effect of Michael stalking people. You get that darkness, that grittiness, that thriller-esque feeling of him stalking his predator, of him stalking his prey, and the story that builds up over the course of that first film. And then Friday the 13th, of course, is the worst of them because it's not. It's an out of the to me, the first Nightmare on Elm Street is to the the first Friday the 13th movie is to the Friday the 13th canon what Halloween 3 is to the Halloween canon. It's intermingled and it's intertwined in the sense that Halloween was a movie in the Halloween 3 franchise, whereas the first Friday the 13th was about Jason's mom, not about Jason. it just makes it so completely different to what comes after it that it doesn't really fit in the overarching storyline. Whereas Nightmare on Elm Street is, of course, just a really great movie. Excuse me, that establishes so much of what would go on to make that franchise great. The unbelievability of it, the fact that they did have a legitimate bona fide A-list star, or a guy who would go on to be a legitimate bona fide A-list star in Johnny Depp at the early part of his career, has definitely helped that maintain its position in all of that. So I think that is what makes Halloween number one, because it is arguably it. I can't really put it in the top 3. I don't think I can put it in the top 5, but I think I could probably make a case for it in the top 10 best movies of all time list. I don't think you can make a case for it in the top 3 or the top 5, but make a case for it in the top 10, and I think it fits. And I'm okay with that. Whereas, Nightmares is a great movie and a great way to establish the franchise. It's not a classic. It's a classic horror film. It's a classic slasher film, but it's not a classic film.
I was actually just gonna say, like, pretty much all the points you just said. So yeah, we're pretty in sync on this one. It's Halloween 1 is a movie you could show regular movie fans and say, like, this is an awesome movie. I feel like if someone's not really a horror fan and you show them Nightmare on Elm Street, they're gonna be like, well, that's fucking corny.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's something that horror fans love, but I feel like Halloween you could show to anyone. They'll be like, oh man, that's a thriller.
It stands alone as a great film,
right?
It stands alone as a great film, irrespective of the franchise that follows it. Like, if they just stopped at Halloween, it would still be a top 10 movie of all time. If they had just stopped after Nightmare or Friday the 13th, then they'd probably be forgotten by this point.
I think that's why it has the best like newer movies as well. Like the 13th and the Nightmare remakes were pretty panned by the fans. I know that I know they're not not all the fans hate them, but I think 2018 is loved by more people. It's newer than both those other entries, but I feel like Halloween has like they can keep making movies kind of into the mainstream. I feel like when you go to see a Freddy Krueger movie, you're going to get horror fans. You're probably not going to get a lot of random people who says, "Oh man, that looks like a great action movie. That looks like a thrilling movie." You're going to get people who are like, "Oh, I don't watch Freddy Krueger movies," and they're probably going to pass on it more likely than a Halloween.
Tommy, anything you want to add?
Just keeping an eye on the chat. I think what you really said earlier really rang true. If all these franchises stopped at their first installment, still Halloween would probably come out on top. I mean, the movie just lends itself that way when it concludes with Michael just vanishing off into the night like that. They could have not have made a sequel and it would have been totally okay. So
yeah.
They had an original ending for the first Freddy movie where instead of the car having like a Freddy colored roof and then like him murdering someone at the end of the first Freddy movie, it was supposed to be an ending that didn't have a sequel tie-in. I think it was just that Robert Englund would be driving the bus or something. Someone in the chat will probably know.
I'm sure Toronto Freddy can tell us exactly what it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be a movie that could stand alone, but then they were like, we can make a second one. Like, let's just have Freddy murder people at the end.
Which made sense at that point. Franchising was becoming a huge thing. Like, I mean, I'd say before the 80s, franchises didn't exist. Everything was kind of a one and done. Occasionally things would get a sequel, but it really wasn't until the 80s that you started getting, trilogies and quadrilogies and just full bore franchises like we've come to know today. Like, everything now, you do one movie and you're planning for the fourth movie in the series, right off the jump.
First
like
James Bond released.
You're right. Bond would, I guess, be the anomaly in that one because that one was.
But there was a book series.
Yeah, it was based off of a book character.
I don't know shit about the franchise. I just
I want to
No,
say
there was
I
a-
want to say Doctor No was in 65.
I can't remember what the first one was. The
Dr.
first
No.
one wasn't
First
the
one was Doctor No. Yeah.
first one was Doctor No. Okay.
Yeah. I just actually
something
watched
that,
them on.
sticks out to me. Just
Yeah,
one that comes to mind. It's old.
I kind of started rewatching through the movies there about 3 weeks ago again, and I got up to Roger Moore, and I think the last one I watched was The Man with the Golden Gun.
Hmm.
So, but
yeah,
yeah,
I
Doctor
watched
No
a
was
few
the first
lately too. Actually, I watched a few, but I didn't watch them in order. I just watched because there's some that I remember really well and some I don't.
Mhm.
So I went back and watched. I watched Moonraker because I was like, I don't even fucking remember what happens in that movie. Like I was like, do they go to space? What the fuck happens? I don't remember. And
That
so I
was
went back
Jaws'
and watched
face
that.
turn.
Yeah. It
But-
was cool because he popped up and I was like, I didn't know Jaws was in this movie because he's in like 3 movies.
Yeah, I believe he was in
Isn't he?
3
Yeah.
of the Roger Moore era films.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's 3 consecutive after The Man with the Golden Gun. I think. I could be wrong about that. I have to actually look at it to check, but I know he's not in The Man with the Golden Gun, and that's the first Roger Moore or the second Roger Moore movie. So, just watching them over though, I was more testament to the fact of seeing things like you couldn't get away with that today.
Yeah.
Like I rewatched, was it the last Sean Connery one in the main Bond canon, and he pretty much full on goes, not blackface, but full on, Asian, like, with the skin color change and the hair and the eyebrows and the cheeks, everything. It's like, oh my god!
That. I don't remember that, but yeah, that would be a good example of something that was cool 40 years ago, but not cool now in
don't
in the
age
laws
well.
of society. You know what I
No,
mean?
it does
Yeah.
not.
It happens
Well, I mean,
with movies.
it's a
sucks,
testament
but-
to the source material, right? It's authentic to the material, because it was written, by Ian Fleming back at the the tail end of World War II, and in that era of the 50s, where a lot of the things you could get away with in the 50s today are, oh boy.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Now. Yeah. Don't do that now.
It's not the idyllic Leave It to Beaver-esque decade people would like to think it was.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. Like it if someone would have thought about it smartly in the first place, that it would have never happened. But it got accepted to do that sort of stuff, and then people didn't think about it before they did it. So people didn't have to think about it because the president was already probably set by a million different comedy shows, and I mean we had it all the way up until like Dave Chappelle doing whiteface, on Chappelle's show for his news reporter thing. Like up until recently, it was still somewhat accepted, and now obviously it's
really.
And I agree. I 100% agree with it being unacceptable. I'm not saying that. I don't think it's acceptable. But
it
not, was in society. It was acceptable
at the time. It was acceptable and encouraged. I mean, up until post World War II, I mean, vaudeville characters in full on blackface was the norm. You know, like it just, looking back on it, and I watched. There was a couple movies about was it George Joplin, George something, I can't remember. He was a vaudeville star back in like the 20s and 30s, and it was full on blackface, but it was a movie from like the 80s, and it's like, you got away with that in the 80s? It might have been 70s. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember exactly, but like you watch some of these old movies and it's like, yeesh.
But I mean, it's the same as the language, and the world was different at that time.
Oh, absolutely, it was. I mean,
different shit you can get away with, and now you can get away. There's other stuff you can get away with now that you couldn't before. Like, you couldn't show any nudity at all before, and you would get like an X rating, and fucking your picture got thrown in the dump. But now there's all sorts of big rating system. You can show
the time, like the television is the huge difference, right? I mean, they couldn't name an episode "Lucy is pregnant" on I Love Lucy, so they did it in Spanish. Like the world's not gonna know what you mean. Like,
and so it's weird. Anyways, we're way off topic here now.
I mean, it's kind of the norm. But as we were yapping here, we did get a super chat in from one of our big supporters, Matt Whitfield, and frequent appearance person on this. Look, Nightmare and Friday the 13th, we're trying to cash in on what OG Halloween was done, from lighting, shooting techniques, etc. At the end of the day, they are inferior cash grabs to Halloween. I mean, yes and no, because I don't think either. I mean, I can see you making that case for Friday the 13th because it was the first one was very similar in trying to make it, the unknown killer in the darkness that you couldn't quite see, which is why, everyone was so sure it was Jason Voorhees right up until it's actually Pamela. Whereas I think Nightmare on Elm Street is a completely different animal because it's so different. Freddy operates in your dreams. He can do anything there. I mean, literally, you had Johnny Depp swallowed by a bed. Like that's the most anti-Halloween kill I've ever seen. Yet it was truly phenomenal, for the time period.
Yeah,
but
well, and also,
go ahead.
Sorry, you got to
go
think.
Ahead. You're good.
Like when we were talking about Black Christmas recently, a lot of stuff from Halloween came from Black Christmas. So it's not like Halloween started the popular, the popular series of slasher killers, but there's stuff that was taken,
entertainment is cyclical. Nothing's original.
Yeah.
Unless you want to read Shakespeare. True,
yeah.
Like,
that guy was fucking brilliant.
Even Shakespeare took some from like the real, like the Greek classics, like no original is cave drawings. Original is cave drawings. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. I guess that's it for this time. Anything else you want to add on that crazy train?
Nah, that's about it for me.
You're good, so we could move on to.
It's been a number of years for me since I've seen Elm Street. I've dived back into Friday past year a good bit. I need to. It's another one that's got to go on the to-do list. It's another one. When's the last time y'all sat down and seen an Elm Street film?
It has to come back on the free list for me.
The free list.
I have Shudder, and they were all on Shudder, and then they were gone. So now I was like, well, fuck that. I guess I'm not watching them. I think I do have the pack of like 1 to 4 somewhere in this house, but somewhere in this house could be a lot of places.
I have both the DVD box set that they put out like 10, 15 years ago that had like the Freddy claw embossed on the side of it. And I also apparently have the Blu-ray collection. I didn't realize I did. I was looking at my Blu-rays one day out in the in the hallway where we've got them stacked up along the hallway wall on a shelf, and didn't even realize I had it. I randomly ordered it in an Amazon order once, and I was like buying as like an add-on thing, like rounded up to $20 to the nearest 20 gets this box set. Okay, let's grab it, type thing. And apparently I have it, and I just didn't realize it until not too long. It's probably been a good, probably last Halloween. I usually try and watch at least one of them every year, Halloween. All right. So we're gonna move on to the next topic of the evening, and of course, we're heading headlong into the summer, which means, of course, right around the corner is the fall movie season, and there are a lot of great movies coming out this fall. So we're going to spend a bit of time talking about a lot of the major releases coming out this fall. Is there a specific order you guys want to do in, or just hit them in the order that they're on the list?
Yep.
The order they're on here? All right. So, all right, so we're going to start with Venom 2. Obviously, it's the sequel, and I'll preface this once again by saying I still haven't seen the original. So I will probably be... Nope, you haven't seen it either?
Neither of you guys have?
Nope.
All right,
then I guess this is all you, buddy.
Put me on the large screen. No, I have seen the original, and I think I've said it on the channel before. I was pleasantly surprised. I went into it thinking that it was this isn't a Marvel film. It's a Sony film, and Sony has been kind of wishy-washy on what they've done with the Spider-Man franchise. So, I went into it not thinking too much that, I was going to love Venom, but I did love Venom. I thought it was great. They did a great job. Story was great. The acting was really great. I'm not one of those, like, there's a lot of people out there who love Tom Hardy and think that he's the greatest thing ever and he's the manliest man and he's into fucking all these memes where they're like, hey, like every single time there's a meme, they replaced Clint Eastwood. Like there used to be like Clint Eastwood, he's the man's man. They replaced him with Tom Hardy. So he's in all those pictures that have quotes that he never said and about how manly men do this and whatever. I don't feel that way about Tom Hardy. I like Tom Hardy, but I don't think that everything he does is amazing. However, I loved his performance in Venom. I thought he did a great job. He actually did a good job of being a timid character, which I didn't really think was going to be it. When you think of Eddie Brock, the character, he's usually kind of a meathead. He's not like Flash. He's not like Flash in the Spider-Man series, Flash Thompson, but he's kind of a meathead. Anyways, unless you're talking about the Eric Foreman version. So I didn't know what to expect, but Tom Hardy does like a very good job of actually being kind of a timid character. And the Venom comes in. He has a dual personalities. He talks to the Venom, and I thought it was I thought they did a great job. They mixed in some funny stuff in there, and a lot of people don't like the gags and jokes that Marvel fits into their movies, but Sony did a good job, I think, of mixing in some funny stuff, some great action. The CG wasn't the greatest, but it didn't take you out of it. Now, for Venom 2, we did a trailer reaction and we talked about it, and I said that the trailer was meh. The trailer was and I know what Sean thought too. The trailer was even bad. I think Sean even said it was bad at one point. I don't remember, but he was definitely not over the moon about it. And I'm going into the movie with a little bit higher expectations. But I think one of the reasons for that is that we got Woody Harrelson in there. And I think the acting is going to be fantastic. So I think they're going to find a way to make this movie work. I'm not too worried about it. I did say that the Carnage, he looked like a weird, dull, reddish brown color, whereas he should be he should be the color of this over here, this little circle. That's what he should be. And but Sean reminded us that they could change that just because that's the way he appears in the preview. And that was really the only gripe I had about it. So I'm excited about it. I think it'll be a good movie. I think, they don't have to go over the moon for this. But I'm cautiously optimistic because I still don't really trust not Marvel with any of these projects. If it's Marvel, I'm like, cool, it'll be good. It'll be at the very least, I'll enjoy it. I don't know if I'll break it down in the same way, but it'll be good. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this movie going into it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Like I said, I haven't seen the first one, and I'm not running out to see it in preparation for this one. Although I might, if the reviews and the right people say the right things about it. Since neither Tommy or myself really have much we can add on Venom, we'll kind of just go to the chat here and highlight some of the things that they said. Your wife loved Venom. Toronto Freddy says atrocious. Alex Roof says Venom 2 will be great. I had a weird jump in the chat there. Let's see. Solid Saturn hasn't seen it either. Toronto Freddy bought the Venom Blu-ray and literally watched it once. Dean Renner had a bit more to say. He said Venom was cool, a fun watch for me. I don't follow the backstory from the comics or anything, but to see a Venom movie was cool. I thought it was entertaining, and I am looking forward to 2. David Irwin says he's more looking forward to Morbius than Venom, just because of Jared Leto. See, Frank Raker says this Venom is a lot better than Spider-Man 3's. Well, yeah, that's not exactly saying very much, I'm afraid.
I'm not. I'm not really down on Spider-Man 3, by the way. Like I didn't like a lot of things that happened in that movie the way they happened, but the movie as a whole, I'm still was okay with. And the Sandman was fantastic.
I think
What's that actor's name again? He was in that uh, Sideways movie, the movie about being an alcoholic. He was man,
I
what's that
can't think
guy's
of his name.
I forget, but he was fantastic in that movie, and like it was hard to watch the Sandman's sort of sympathetic villain story. So
Yeah, he was the best part of that. I mean, I think that one is it's a victim of Sony trying to do too much. Yeah, trying to force too much on Sam. You know,
yeah,
Sam
oh
didn't
yeah,
want to do all of that stuff, but they were like, "We need this, we need this, we need this, we need this," and just
yeah,
eventually somebody's got to say, "Guys, this is a 2-hour movie. Like, calm down."
yeah. No, totally agree.
But,
That movie would have been great if one of those elements wasn't in it, and it probably should be the Venom. The Venom should be the part that didn't happen. If it was just Sandman and Green Goblin 2, I guess you want to call him,
Yeah.
then it probably would have been better.
David Irwin says Thomas Hayden Church. Thomas Hayden Church is
Yes, yeah. I would have never gotten that name. I do know it now that I've heard it, but I would have never remembered that.
It's one of those you know it, and then you don't remember it. And then you see the guy, and he's like, "Oh, that's what's his name? That guy." And then you hear it, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense." But I'm not going to remember it in 10 minutes.
On every podcast that I'm on, I have someone else to insulate me from forgetting every actor's name. Like I always, like you or Sean come up with the name all the time.
Usually that's because I'm not hosting and I can Google really fast.
Thaden comes up with the names when we're on Rogue Sons. Thaden comes up with the names. He knows all the actors, all the.
I was gonna say that's because he has an incessantly large knowledge of all things Star Wars.
Yeah. So I'm insulated,
evidence.
but right now it's gone.
All right, let's move on to the next movie on our list, and that is Dune. Either of you have anything you want to say off the top for Dune?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of hype about the film. A lot of folks out there seem to be looking forward to it. I'm not one of them. Like, I feel like my big thing on this channel is to like be the downer for movies, or the person who just doesn't really have the interest in shit. And I'll just tell you, yeah, I don't give a shit. It doesn't do it for me. I don't really get the hype. How about you all?
I'm excited for it. I was a fan of the original. I saw the cult classic movie. It's probably been about 15 years since the last time I saw it, but I absolutely I remember enjoying it. And excuse me, I've heard a lot of great things about this one, and the cast really looks powerful. Like this is an A-list who's who, really. From Batista all the way down to Timothy Chalamet. This is a who's who. I'm excited for that. Whether or not they can mesh together is a different story. Whether the story comes together in a in a coherent fashion or not with that sort of cast. And of course, Denis Villeneuve is directing this, so obviously there's some talent in the director's chair, which goes a long way towards how this is going to be. So I'm excited for it.
I haven't seen the original Dune. It's probably one of those things I'll do before this one comes out. I can't really comment, to be honest. I haven't seen the original.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen the original.
I did see the trailer, and the trailer looked pretty good, but like without the source.
Yeah, without that context, it's not quite as.
Yeah, I'm not like, oh, that's what the planet looks like. I'm like, oh, it's a bunch of sand.
If I remember correctly, I think we kind of came to the opinion that the music of the trailer was shit.
I can't remember.
Does that ring any bells? No.
I know we did review it on the channel, but
yeah, it's been a long time since the trailer first came out, so I don't. I don't exactly remember.
As they say, it's been a hot minute.
It really has. But I mean, obviously, it's based off of one of the most classic science fiction novels of all time. So it definitely has a pedigree to live up to. And of course, the first movie is a cult classic. So, you know, only time will tell if this is a hit or a miss. We'll find out here in just a few short months, I guess. Next one. It's the big one, at least as far as this channel is concerned, because it is a huge part of, what makes Fandom Empire Fandom Empire. And it's been a huge part of our programming to date so far. Obviously, I'm talking Halloween Kills. Who wants to bat first on anything about this? Now, obviously, we've covered this film in depth on this channel, so there isn't really a whole lot different we can say. So try and, I don't want to say approach it from a different way than we normally do here, because that's not, there really isn't a different way to approach it. We've kind of come at this from all angles here on this channel. And of course, we'll continue doing that as we get closer and closer to the film actually coming out. But yeah, who wants to take a shot? Tommy, how about you?
We've been making it out like it's going to be the best thing in the world, and that's something the channel's doing. But what happens if instead of being the Empire Strikes Back of the Halloween franchise, this ends up hitting like the Phantom Menace?
Oof.
What happens? What do we do? Or maybe on the other hand, what happens if it hits like Attack of the Clones? I think some people dislike Attack of the Clones more than they do the Phantom Menace.
I think when you're looking at what you can take from those movies and makes like the lore more important, what you need to go back and watch. The Phantom Menace has more that you need to go back and watch. Because I feel like the Attack of the Clones is a lot of stuff you could throw out. But I think Phantom Menace was a bigger disappointment at the time when it came out. But I'm not. We don't need to. I don't think we need to talk Star Wars so much. I mean, we could if you want, but. Actually, you know what, Johnny? I don't even know. Which one do you like better, Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones?
Phantom Menace.
Okay, so there you go. So
because at least Phantom Menace has more interesting parts for me. Like the pod race is a great sequence. The 2-on-1 with Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon is intense. Whereas, Attack of the Clones is more hurry up and wait and let's spend 2 hours talking, and it has some of the worst lines ever written on film when Anakin tells us why he doesn't like sand.
That you are a prequel hater.
Johnny likes his 2-on-1s, guys. Just fucking, that's the way he does it, and you can't convince him otherwise.
We're not going there. That's a completely different show, buddy.
Yeah, no, I think you're pretty much hitting on the same sort of thing as me. Like if I watch Phantom Menace, at least I'm going to get a couple things that I'm like, oh man, that was awesome. I mean, the movie was trash, but this lightsaber duel is fucking awesome. But when it comes to Halloween Kills, I know that I've said this is a different journey entirely for me than it is. I think I'm unique in perspective of this because, like I've mentioned before, I'm a Halloween fan for like 3 or 4 years now. Like before that, I think I only saw the zombie films when they came out. Well, I saw the first one. I don't think I saw the second one until way later. Thank God. So I'm attacking this from like a Halloween fan who just saw the whole series at once because they were on AMC as a big thing leading up to Halloween Day a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, and I said, oh cool, I'm going to tape all these and I'm going to watch them all, and I taped them all and I watched them all, the whole series at once. So I have a different perspective in that way that I wasn't. This is the first one I've really been waiting for. 2018 came out and I saw it when it came out, or fairly soon after. I didn't see it in the theater, but I joined this channel as a part of the Star Wars show, and and I said, no, I actually like those Halloween movies, and So that's me getting onto the show. I've seen them all many times now because I love the Halloween series. But I also am coming into this movie as someone who, for the first time ever, has read a script, and then I'm going to see the movie. So I know what's going to happen before it comes out. I'm not going to talk any spoilers on here because that's more of a Patreon type thing. And I'm not just going to spoil the whole movie because.
And equally as important, I'm the host and I haven't read it.
There you go. But it's a different experience, and I can say when I heard the idea for the movie, I was not impressed. When I heard when Sean told me the whole thing about a mob of people are going to come after Michael Myers, I was like, oh, that sounds dumb. And I read the script, and I thought the script was great. I think it's going to be a fantastic movie, and so I'm very excited about it. And I don't think there's a lot of ways they can mess up this movie. I think it should be good. So that's my perspective, just as kind of being a little bit of a. This is the first one I've had to wait for. This is the first one I've been sitting around waiting for a Halloween movie before. So I'm excited. It's probably the movie I'm most excited for coming up. My wife would disagree and say we need to fucking see that Black Widow movie as soon as possible. But I think it's the one I'm the most excited about.
I mean, I think as far as things coming this fall and the remainder of this year, I'll say it again. I've said it many times. I'm the anomaly on this channel. My world doesn't stop and start with Halloween. I know it's a crazy thing to say, on a channel that is as dedicated to Halloween as we are, but it's not. I don't, like, I love the characters and I love the movies, but, I'm not, we've talked about, I think it was mentioned last week that, they're trying to save TIFF this year. And for me, it doesn't matter, like I'm not, I don't even. Right now, it's a bit of an anomaly because of the temperate climate in the world that we live in. There's no guarantee I'm even going to see this movie in a theater. Because of the world we live in right now is very different than the one we were in when the sequel was announced. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go and when I see it. I'd love to say I'm going to see it in a theater, but I'm not going to guarantee that. I love my Marvel movies more, and I don't think I'm going to be going to a Marvel movie in the theater this year. I don't, it's a completely different world we live in where, I can sit here as a fan and say, yeah, I may not be in a rush to see this movie, and it's a weird statement to make because, it's such an integral part of this channel. But, if there's not a home option of some sort, whether that's VOD or, one of the streaming services, I don't think any of the major streamers have any relationship with Blumhouse at this point. Because this is being released by Universal, correct?
I don't know that.
I believe it's Universal. I mean, somebody in the chat is obviously going to correct me on that if I'm incorrect, but it's I don't believe there's a streaming home yet. And I don't know. I'm torn. Like I want to see it, and I'm going to see it. There's no question about that. It's just a question of when. Yeah. Like again, I'm the anomaly on this channel, and that my world doesn't revolve around. So I get to provide that outsider's opinion, which is, obviously a big part of what makes things. And it's universal, according to David Thomas, like I said.
And it's hard. It's hard. We're on this channel talking to a large American audience. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things have gone back to normal, back right for them. And, it's hard for them to relate to us. We're still not, I mean, this Friday, we're getting a little bit of restrictions lifted up, but it's still like you're allowed to go see 10 people outside. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to be going to other people's houses. Stores are restricted to 15% capacity or something like that. Like mm-hmm. We're still, and that's on Friday. That's not even now. That's on Friday. So like we're not looking like we're going to get theaters back soon, and I know that most places in the States are either already rolling or they're getting there, so
If they're
we're
open,
still stuck in the shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
another good point for Tommy, is that we don't know what this, effect of the last few years is going to have on theaters. How many are going to actually open back up is another
I've made
huge
it very
question.
clear. I mean, during the, in the middle of everything, both of our local theaters, they ceased being operational. Now that may have changed for one of them, maybe both of them at this point. But last I heard, I have to go find a new place to go see movies. So
Mhm.
who
That
knows?
sucks.
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of theaters, especially smaller chains, that have just shuttered permanently.
I mean, I think that's another thing that's going to be a huge difference, is that there's still going to be a lot of smaller places where their chains aren't open, and it's going to affect the release schedule, because a lot of the smaller theaters are going to be playing catch up as they open up, because they're going to be limited not just in capacity, but and I think that's the huge factor, is that it's still going to be a capacity issue once we get to the fall. I don't think there's any feasible situation where you know I don't even think 50% of theaters will be open at full capacity by the time October rolls around. So I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see. Like, I think Halloween is bound to succeed either way, because it is on such, I don't want to say smaller scale, but in the scale of production budgets and things of that nature, it's on a much smaller scale. I mean, we're looking at a movie that's being, I don't know the exact numbers. I mean, I know Sean would know them. I doubt either of you know the production budget. No, I mean, I'm sure somebody in the chat has it, and they'll
Nope.
fill it in, and we'll be able to
I'm
plug in
not.
that
Yeah.
number as we get it. But it's a much lower production budget, for this movie than some of the other movies we've talked about. Where Dune or Venom 2, they require a massive movie rollout, a massive theater rollout, whereas Halloween Kills doesn't require that. Like, do we want the world, if I could wave a magic wand and have the world go back to what it was 2 years ago, absolutely no questions asked to do it, and anyone who wouldn't is a masochist, a sadist.
Or they have the mask production company, and
I
they're
was going to
doing
say, or
fucking
they're profiteering off the
fantastic
world
here.
we live in.
No, they probably. I think they would do it too. So
Probably, but I mean, I think it's just that the budget for this is so small that it doesn't require those massive theater openings. I think that the production houses, the Universals, the Sonys, the Disneys, they're going to be going to these smaller theater chains where they'd still make a mint and being like, yeah, no, we'd rather you play this movie instead.
yeah, well, it's
The
like
budget, the production budget was 30 million minus the 7 million rebate they got. So we're looking at 23 million.
So let's say plus production, we're looking at, let's say, around 50, like with merchandising and promotion and things like that. We're looking at about 50 to $60 million budget, roughly, right? I mean, that's a fair assessment. And you take the production budget and you double it, and that's typically what your final budget is. Somewhere around there seems like a fair assessment. So say 50 million. That's what we're looking at total budget. I mean, what did A Quiet Place 2 pull back in theaters last week? Wasn't that 57 million, something like that?
yeah, it did good in its first weekend, and then I think it lost in the second weekend to another movie. Another horror movie. I
Conjuring,
think I heard
perhaps?
that. Yeah, I believe so. I think they lost in their second weekend to Conjuring.
Well, let's see if I can pull that up as we're talking here. But I mean, the fact is that it dropped down, actually not by much. The Conjuring, this is of course Box Office Mojo numbers. The weekend of June 4th to 6th, Conjuring made 24.1. A Quiet Place 2 still pulled in 19.3
on a second weekend. Yeah,
on a second weekend. So I mean, I think
did the Conjuring 2, or I'm sorry, Quiet Place 2, I think we're looking more like 80 worldwide opening weekend, right? Sources say, at least.
Well, I mean, looking again, this is Box Office Mojo numbers, so I don't, they're not always 100,000% accurate. But so far, You know, it has a domestic gross of 90,695,870 and an
Yeah.
international of 50 million, bringing it to a worldwide total of $140,695,870.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think that in these times, Halloween would be happy with that.
absolutely. I mean, it had
Yeah.
it had an opening weekend that is attributed as 47 million. So, I mean, let's be real. If Halloween goes out and has a weekend even close to that, you know, it's a great weekend. You know, it's amazing. They make
Yeah.
their money back almost immediately. And of course, you know, there's still, you know, multiple airings, and you know, there's still money to be made here, and that's something that a lot of people aren't looking at. Like, you know, this is the time where $100 million is not the norm; it's the blockbuster.
Mhm.
You know, like that's another thing people aren't looking at. You know, they're still, a lot of people are still looking at budgets and returns in a pre-pandemic world, and they can't do that. They can't, because
Yeah.
it's not where we are. You know, like A Quiet Place 2 pulling in, what did I say, 160 million in 2 weeks. That's
Yeah.
bad in 2019. You know, like, it's not
I
like,
think.
for what is a sequel to what turned out to be an above average blockbuster. You know, like, it's bad. You know, the numbers are not good, and people are still expecting, you know, people are expecting the, you know, I've seen people expecting the Black Widow movie to still pull in $500 million. Like, that's not going to happen. That's
Yeah.
not, you know, even with the might of Disney behind it, it's not going to happen. You know, you'll be lucky to make half that total. You know, of course, the Disney Plus premiere numbers are going to boost that up, and whether or not they include those in the gross is a completely different question, which I don't imagine they would. So, you know, I mean, I think they're going to have to be, you know, you have to get yourself wrapped around what is the post-pandemic world. And obviously, I don't think you're going to have, you know, Frank points out in the chat that Universal has never released the movie in VOD at the same time as the actuals, and I don't think they will with this one. I'm not suggesting that that's the case. I mean, you know, a soon follow, you know, a quick follow. You know, 2 weeks, you know, 14 days, I
2
think,
weeks.
was the
Yeah.
numbers. 2 weeks was the numbers that were
17
started.
days.
Yeah, so,
17 days is the amount you're supposed to now.
and I think that's like for blockbusters. And I love Halloween Kills, but
Yeah.
it's not that. You
No, it
know,
wouldn't
like,
count towards that. It wouldn't count towards that.
like, theaters are going to insist that, you know, obviously we use Universal here because that's it, and Universal's got the Fast movie out here shortly, and they're going to insist that be out in theaters as long as possible before they put it out on VHS. Wow. Apparently I time machine all the way back to the 90s.
Yeah, that's an
Um,
interesting medium to be releasing stuff in
whew.
2021.
But you know, I think you're going to see a VOD release for something like this very soon thereafter. Like, it maybe even be as early as a week later. You know, because it's not like, I love it, and the fan base is huge, and it's a big part of this. And Sean has, you know, who's been listening, has, you know, informed me that Halloween Kills needs to make about 90 million to break even. So that's right around kind of where we were ballparking uh, the total final numbers. But I mean, I think obviously it's going to do that, and I think just breaking even in this climate is a win. You
Yeah.
know, like, it's not, you know, like,
I think to
Halloween
keep
movies.
things going, yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Like, you have to account for the world and the climate we live in, you know, and break even is a big deal in theatrical release. You know,
There,
like,
there definitely there's definitely going to be people that disagree with that, but if you think of businesses as a whole, like, businesses are fucking super happy right now to break even. You know, this year, there's a lot of businesses that have been going down and have to try to recoup their money. You know, in the post pandemic sort of thing that we're going through right now. Uh, those businesses are happy, and I can't imagine the movie business is that much different. I think a lot of studios are like, hey, we need to, like, we put a lot of money into this. We can't fucking sit on this film forever. Like, we need to get some money out of it now. And they're going to wait until they can make the most money recently. But like, as we said on this channel before, like, they have another movie getting ready to come out. Like, they can't push it to 2022 Halloween, you know, like, it's, you know, they can't just keep, they got to release this movie. So, and I think they'll be happy with what they make, even though they'll have to temper expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I think Frank, just to respond to that, because it kind of hit me here in the chat. Not going to turn my head in this season. You know, yeah, we're at a casino because that's exactly what making movies is in this current climate. It is gambling money. That's what movie making has always been. It's gambling. You know, you right now you are happy to come away with the table with what you set down at the table in what is a theatrical release in 2020 and 2021. Walk away with what you put down in the pre-pandemic world. You're happy with that. At least I am. Like, I mean, yes, of course, there's the people who are making their money and who shareholders whose take home is affected by all this are like, no, I want to make as much money as we possibly can, and anything sort of double what we put into it is worthless. That's factually inaccurate. Like, as long as you can pull out what you put in right now, that has to be considered a win. Right now, like, what?
Well, I think even studios, like, there are movies that break even and eventually become cult success and end up getting sequels. But I think a lot of times the success just like, if a movie makes an extra 25% after getting its budget back, normally you're like, we don't need to make a sequel for that movie. It was successful, but and depending on the numbers, obviously, it depends on the movie, but a lot of times you'll say we don't need a sequel to that. I think this is going to make a big difference to this. Like, A Quiet Place 2 is probably successful enough in this time that they can make A Quiet Place 3 if that's where they're going. I haven't seen the movie, so I couldn't tell you what about that. But I think a lot of times how successful the movie is kind of tells you whether or not you're getting another one, especially in this day and age of sequels for fucking everything. But I think, like, that's we already have a sequel to push out for this movie, so it needs to make money, but
I think the comparable
coming out anyways.
I think the comparable that we're sitting at here is just, it's right in front of our faces, and that's The Conjuring, which obviously just came out, and I'm not a fan of that franchise. I'm not. I never really have been. But if The Conjuring can go out there and make 25 million, I mean, yes, it's relatively unopposed. Obviously you have week 2, week 3 of Cruella and week 2 of Quiet Place 2, but there really isn't anything else out there. And obviously Halloween Kills is going to be facing, I don't want to say stiffer competition because I'm not sure exactly what's out around that same window, but it's still going to be a fall horror movie in a climate that is 3-4 months further down where we are now. And I mean, we talk about America as the prime example because that's where most of the money's made. And let's be real, football stadiums are targeting 100% capacity for opening weekend of the NFL. Like, that's huge. And if that goal can be hit, then theaters are probably looking at, close to 100% capacity, because let's be real, there's a huge difference between packing, 1,000 people in a theater and packing 70,000 people in a stadium, like, so I think it's, I think it's going to be a huge difference. I mean, I think we're kind of wrapping down here on Halloween, so we'll kind of turn to the chat a little bit and see some of the things they've said. Frank says, if you think about it, the concession stand prices increasing may turn some people away. And that's not the studio's fault, but they both do go hand in hand. I mean, I don't know.
I've never seen concession prices as a problem.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, what you will.
I mean, let's be real. Like, I love concession stand prices, and there's something about going to the movie theater and getting that movie theater popcorn that's a completely different experience than popping a bag of popcorn at home. I can't really understand it or explain it, but it's a different experience, even if you have like a hot air popper at home, which I have had at different times, and it's still not the same experience. I cannot for the life of me understand why, but it isn't. It's the experience.
It's the butter.
It's that movie theater butter.
Fake ass butter. Yeah, all that chemicals and shit you're putting in your body.
It's the yellow stuff.
There goes my fucking health.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for everywhere in the world, but I know where I am. I think I think people would fucking pay $100 to go to the theater right now. Like I would probably if it was a Marvel movie or this Halloween movie or a couple other things coming out soon, I'd pay a fucking $100 to go. And I mean, I do
Look
almost
at
have to
you,
pay
big
$100 to
spender.
go. I do almost have to pay that much money because I got 2 kids and a wife, and that just fucking usually ends up being 70, $80 anyways. But uh, I think right now it's not going to worry for a bit. Maybe later, maybe like a couple months down the road after things reopen, people will be like, you know what, these theater prices are kind of ridiculous. But I think people around here are so excited to just go do something. It's not going
I
to
mean,
matter
and
here.
I don't think like I mean it sounds crazy, but like movie theater concession stands, at least up here, have been selling concessions on like Uber Eats and DoorDash. So like the prices haven't gone up. They've just been selling them through, Uber Eats and DoorDash and Skip the Dishes and things like that. So you can get your movie theater popcorn at home and watch your movie at home. And quite honestly, I don't see that changing. I don't see that stopping.
I
So I
didn't
think that
know that.
I noticed that I started getting
I
ads
think
on
that's
like
pretty fucking
Instagram.
stupid. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not gonna lie and say it's smart either, but there are people who want that experience, and
What the
it's
fuck do I know though? I'm fucking a kid gave me a $10 gift card on a school bus. I drive a couple of their family's kids the other day, and I went and grabbed a couple things from McDonald's in the morning. Someone fucking door dashed a drink.
I mean stuff like that's a
Fucking
little crazy, but like
who the fuck door dashes a fucking beverage from McDonald's? What the fuck is that?
that's weird.
Like
But I mean like
so popcorn is not the most outlandish fucking thing I've ever heard of. Getting a
7-Eleven
fucking
has Skip the Dishes up here. Like,
oh my god.
like the local convenience store, not too far from where Sean lives, is on Skip the Dishes. Because I was looking at a restaurant that's right next door to it, and it came up in the local places, and like convenience stores are on Skip the Dishes right now. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it makes sense in a weird way. As far as the automation of the world. But I mean, Matt sends in a $10 super chat and says, "I don't care, I'm gonna pay it," and that's the way a lot of people are feeling because Kieran's right. At this point, there are going to be people who are just paying just to do it. And I think that's going to.
You gotta answer that voice in your head too. The voice in your head's like, "That's way too much fucking money." Like, what the fuck? And then the other voice goes in, "We haven't spent that much money in fucking like a year. Like we got extra budget. We can fucking don't worry." Like, I mean, we're still gonna pay the same because we haven't watched the movie in fucking 6, 7, 9, 12 months. So, the budget's around the same. Don't worry about it.
All right. I think unless either of you have
Let's-
anything you want to
let's
add
go
here,
do
we've kind of
these last couple movies.
yeah, we
wrap
kind of
up.
went very far afield here. We got a couple more movies.
Don't worry,
left
I'll
on
get
that.
sock puppets next time.
We've got a couple more movies here, and then if we still have time, we might get in some Q&A if we still have time. All right, Spider-Man: No Way Home. This is a big movie. It's breaking down the forbidden door, and it seems like we're about to establish the multiverse in a big fashion. So what? Kieran, you're the Marvel guy, so we'll let you take this because you'll probably take the longest. But what are you thinking about that right now? Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Very excited for Spider-Man: No Way Home. I think it's going to be amazing. The Spider-Man movies have been great so far. They've really hit on all cylinders, and I think this is going to be a very Avenger-esque movie. I guess it's going to be it's like a big. It's like the final act of a trilogy. So I think it's going to be really big. I don't think it's the final Spider-Man movie, but it's going to wrap up a lot of things that happened in the first 2 movies and other elements from the MCU. So I'm very excited about it. We've all heard the news about Alfred Molina and the other Spider-Man, the other Spider-Men. And we have. We talked about the other day how Willem Dafoe might be in it. It's it's going to be an ensemble compilation, like final wrap up of all the Spider-Man movies so far. So it's in the making longer than any of the MCU movies because it's from pre-MCU. We're bringing in characters that are pre-MCU. So super excited about it. And because it's Marvel, like I said earlier, I don't think it can fail. I think it can stumble. I think I could be like, hey, that wasn't as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or Thor 3, but I don't think it can fail in a way that I didn't enjoy it or that it was, it's the precedent has just been set through like 30 fucking Marvel movies that they're batting like 950. Like there's one or two Marvel movies that are I don't think any of them are bad. I don't think any of them are like I even like the ones that other people don't like. So, I don't mind Iron Man 2 or 3. They don't bother me. They're not the best, but I like them and I'll still watch them when I see them on TV. So Marvel's batting a really, really, really good percentage. And I think that this movie was probably going to be good even without that. It's probably going to be one of their better movies. And really excited to see how they pull it off.
Tommy, how about you?
So as you know, I'm back on the MCU on Marvel. I need to catch up eventually, one of these days, whenever I get access to it all. Disney has a good bit of it though, Disney Plus. From everything I know about the current role of Spider-Man and where things are standing, it sounds like a cool concept. I'm vaguely interested in it. I'll probably be more whenever I get around to seeing the other films. But that's all I can really add for now. I really can't speak to it much if I don't know the plot. I don't know the story. I don't know why things are the way they are in this upcoming film.
I watched the first Spider-Man movie, the first Spider-Man movie. Well, not the weird Japanese something movie that happened, but the first Spider-Man movie for most of us with Tobey Maguire earlier today, and I didn't get through it all because I was just watching it because whatever it was on there.
Neat.
But man, what an underrated movie! I remembered all the amazing parts from this, all the acting. Willem Dafoe is really exceptional in that movie.
That is Spider-Man for me. That is
Spider-Man. It's fantastic. It's hard because everybody does their Marvel run through and they forget about Spider-Man because it's not part of that Disney. I don't even know if they do have them on Disney Plus. I think.
I don't believe they do. I don't think
they don't.
I don't think they have any of the first 5 Spider-Man movies.
Okay, so fair enough. Anyway, they don't go in the run through that everybody does. Everybody does an MCU run through, and they're not there. But like, they really should be. If you're going to watch Marvel movies, just throw them in there because they're fantastic. And that first movie was like, I forgot about Bonesaw McGraw and Willem Dafoe. And like all the amazing cameos and parts they had in there. Uncle Ben played really well. They just did a really fantastic job in that movie. So it got me extra excited for the possibility of seeing Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're amazing. But if you don't talk about Marvel movies that don't get love, Blade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Most people don't even realize he's a Marvel character. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Blade's
true.
interesting. Wesley Snipes could be a very controversial person, but it's.
Well, if you're the IRS,
you wouldn't even know is necessarily a comic book, character or story. And I've seen Blade a number of times. All the films from. It's a trilogy. Yeah, it's a trilogy.
Yep.
I really enjoyed it. I know that they've, over the years, bounced back and forth. They wanted to make a 4th one with Wesley when they could. They wanted to reboot the whole series, start fresh. I feel like they announced they were going to do something. Maybe it was a new animated project or something.
Blade? No, they're doing a full movie with...
they're doing a movie.
Mahershala Ali?
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they put a trailer out?
No, he's the
Okay,
guy from
it's
Green
just
Book.
an announcement. I do remember hearing something, but okay.
There was a TV series too that they put out that was
Yeah, I thought so. The pandemic is
fairly
probably
interesting.
It changed.
things.
It's changed a lot of things.
Blade has always been one of those franchises. It's like, well, maybe it'll come back eventually. It's got the fan
Well,
base. It's got folks who enjoy it.
Blade started the MCU in a way, like because Blade was a movie where
Came
they
before
were
X-Men.
they were like, it's not really. They're like, it's not really a comic book movie. It's not people. We're not going to get that stigma that's coming with comic book movies at the time. And it's a vampire movie, so don't worry about it. And they made it, and once it was like actually an overwhelming success. That's what got the gears turning. And like, we could make some movies. Like we could make some of these things. So and then came out X-Men and Spider-Man, and those movies were success. So it's just at the genesis of the MCU is really Blade.
Yeah, no, I think it's a huge part. Now, for me, I think as far as Far From Home goes, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with sort of the forbidden door element of it. Like nobody's done it yet. We assumed WandaVision would open the door, and they didn't. And now all that we have left between here and there is we have the Loki series and Black Widow. And I guess Eternals comes before it. I think Eternals comes out in October or November.
I don't know chronologically either, right? Because
I believe
their plans might have gotten kind of messed up.
Yeah,
right?
and that's another thing. I can't 100% remember the chronology of events because it's wouldn't be the first time that a Spider-Man movie has kind of appeared out of order in the MCU chronology.
Yeah, Black Widow was supposed to be before it, right? So.
Well, I mean, it still is, obviously, because Black Widow.
Oh, it still is because it's July.
Well, Black Widow's also.
Yeah. I guess it's a prequel. We're not going to get anything new with it. That makes. I mean,
sense. that was the whole point. Like they were supposed to I don't think this is a spoiler at this point, but one of the characters that came out as a big reveal in Falcon and Winter Soldier wasn't supposed to be a big reveal. Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character debuts in Black Widow. So that was supposed to be already done. So we were supposed to already know who she was. And I think that did a disservice because people didn't know who she's supposed to be. Like I do because I have an appreciation of the comics, and I'm sure you do for that exact same reason. So, I mean, I don't think either of us were really shocked with the direction that was headed and can kind of see a bit of writing on the wall and a certain direction of where that's going. But a lot of other people couldn't because they didn't understand that. But, I don't 100% know the chronology of events because it is a little weird with Marvel. Sometimes some movies are supposed to come before others and after others, even though they're released chronologically out of order.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big example, right? Like Spider-Man 2 was set to take place before one of the other movies that came before it in the MCU movie, or
yeah, that happened. I don't remember which one it was, but I mean, there's also
one of them came out that was in between the two Avengers movies, right? That was supposed to be before it, and I think that was the big deal. But
that would make. I think that is.
Yeah, so I mean, it might have even been the first Spider-Man movie.
Spider-Man was the first one to come out after the Avengers, but
so then that's what it was. The movie was before Infinity War, but
I don't think we got this right. Yeah, but that's not the point.
It's irrelevant to say
there's a chronological way to watch them now. Anyways, you can go on like Marvel.com and they have a chronological watch them in this order, and like Captain Marvel.
There's a canon chronology and a real world chronology. So if you're gonna watch them in chronological order inside the canon, obviously you start with First Avenger. Although I guess now you probably would start with Eternals first because that's probably going to go back further than First Avenger.
That's true.
So
that's true.
But yeah, I think that's about it for here. We're pushing closer to end time than we planned to. So, yeah, I don't think we're gonna have time for Q&As tonight. So we're gonna shout out a super chat we had there towards the end, while we were talking about door dashing and skip the dishes and all of that. Frank tells us he just door dashed edible panties, extra pasty.
Nice.
Mm.
Nice. Did he wear them before he ate them? Frank, comment
Oh my
in
God.
the chat. How were they? Were they? Did it feel like wearing a fruit roll up? How did they taste? Like,
And from whom does
we got to know all the
does
details.
one DoorDash this? From whom does one DoorDash this?
Where do you DoorDash edible panties from? Not that I'm asking because I'm interested in ordering a pair for myself, but because I'm just genuinely curious to know where one is getting their edible.
Well, I don't know if Frank had a decent experience with it. I'll order some. Whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, then the question becomes: is they're edible panties, so you put them on someone else and eat them off of them, right? Like like, are you just buying edible panties just to eat them? Like that's just a little weird.
Is my wife still in the chat? No, I'm just kidding. That's just not.
That was a wonderful glimpse into your bedroom I didn't need.
I assume people. I assume people already have gotten through a lot of comments from me and can kind of figure out, I could do some odd things.
King.
Yeah, whatever. Don't shame. Don't shame. You can't knock shit till you try it. So
shame?
fucking
I can't shame
go.
shit.
Yeah,
I can't
come
shame
on.
shit.
Anyways, so is there anything else? Do we have anything else to get to other than edible underwear? Or are we just gonna head there?
We had one more movie. I'll say my view of it.
Oh,
real
we
quick.
did too. That's yeah. Go ahead, Tommy.
The Eternals.
Yep.
Where were you? That's my view as of a few weeks ago. Where were you? And you weren't there. So see the trailer. I'm not really interested. I'll be totally upfront. Yeah, it is what it is. I might see it eventually, but whatever.
We did.
Any of you?
We did give
quick?
our view. We gave
Yeah, we
our
talked
view
about
on
that
this just
recently.
really recently too.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about it. I told everyone I had the hots for Angelina Jolie when I was a kid. I remember the whole conversation.
We were talking Tomb Raider at that point. Yeah.
We were. Yeah, and I was upset that people said it wasn't good.
I enjoyed the first one. I actually
The
went to
first one's
theaters to see
good.
the
I
first
think the
one.
first
Yeah.
one's good. The remake is actually really good.
I was actually on a date to see the first one. With yeah.
Did you eat anyone's underwear that night?
Well, considering when that movie came out, I would have been like 14. No, I was not eating.
Why? Why not?
Well, because I was 14, I didn't understand edible panties were a thing, and irregardless of that fact, I was in a movie theater.
Right.
We're
also talking like the 1960s.
You never ate anyone's.
Oh, 1960s. Hold up a second, sir. 1960s. Oh, hold on a minute there, buddy.
The supply line was a lot different with the edible panties.
I might be older than you, sir, but not by that much. I did not see the 1960s. I was born 2 decades after the 1960s. Thank you very much. Oh man, that's
Ta-da! That's the show.
I don't. Oh, Tommy, you're killing me.
I would love if like someone, like every once in a while you get a new viewer like right in the middle of the show. Like it's happened on Rick and Morty's show before. Someone's dropped in and be like, "Oh, hey, I saw this link somewhere." Like, cool. All right. I would love for someone to just come like right in the middle of the show and be like, "Oh, I never heard of this before. Fandom Empire." Click on it. It's like, "You ever eaten panties before, Johnny?" Just like,
well, in relation to that question,
click on. I'm at work here.
Since that question seems relevant, that brings us to our what's likely to be our final super chat of the evening from dear friend and listener Frank Rager, who asks, "What flavor do you guys like your panties in?" Who wants to answer that one?
Like I said, I think of edible panties as like just someone wearing fruit roll-up. So I'm thinking strawberry.
Strawberry.
Well,
It's strawberry.
take this answer for what you will, because it's gonna sound awful. Like, it's one of those things. You know in your brain that it's gonna sound horrible, but it is like my favorite flavor of fruit
You
roll-up.
have to be very careful.
I'm that's why I'm prefacing. It's like it's my favorite flavor of like Jolly Rancher and Lifesaver. So it's the answer, but it's cherry.
Yeah, no, I get what
Let's
you
be
mean. There,
real.
but,
I
you
know our
whatever.
audience, and they're taking this in an entirely
Right.
different
It's not
fashion.
the end of the world.
But-
It's not the worst thing you've said recently.
But
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even like. I want to keep going with these terrible jokes, but I think that part needs to end.
yeah, I think it's
I'm
time for us
going to
to
bed. We're done.
yeah, it's time for us to start to saying it home. So before we wrap up in full, let's kind of run over the schedule for what we've got the remainder of this week and early next week coming up here on the channel. And Thursday night we have, of course, another episode of Fandom Empire Live where I will once again be in the chair with Zach Arnold, where we will be discussing the top 10 disaster movies. On Friday night, IPC is back, and they will be doing a discussion on the classic Raiders of the Lost Ark. I look forward to that. Love hearing their opinions on those types of movies, and that is a personal favorite of mine. And next Tuesday night, we will be back here again, and we're not doing a top 10. We are going to do a top 5, where we talk about your top 5 slasher villains. And of course, once again, we'll say it again. If you want to support the channel, you can, of course, always go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Fandom Empire, where you can join up and get any number of exclusive content over there, including the Lambkin Lane podcast, Kieran's Leprechaun debacle. I don't even know what to call it.
It's Kieran presents Leprechaun. Woo! It's gonna be fucking awesome. You know what it's going to be? Actually, if I could preview it, it's going to be my argument for you guys to watch Leprechaun, because I know I see a lot of like people on here saying like, "Oh, it sucks" and blah blah blah, and then I'm like, "Well, have you seen it?" And they're like, "No, I just know it's about a leprechaun." And it's like, so that what it's going to be is my argument to you, the Patreon subscribers, to go and try and go and watch some of these movies. There's some good. There's some gold to be had there.
Yeah. I don't
There
think
is.
you can successfully...
How many Leprechaun movies have you seen, Johnny?
Enough.
Yeah, probably one. I bet one.
I've seen at least one, yes. All the way through, at least one. All right, guys, and of course, if you weren't here off the top, you did... Wow. Oh, it's very clear that our producer is back in the chair. We did not say anything about the Insane Clown Posse. I don't know where that came from.
I keep saying that too. I don't know. I can't let that go. That joke go either, Ryan. I always call them ICP as well. I believe he's talking about IPC.
Oh, the Intergalactic Peace Coalition. Yes, they are back this Friday night, where they will be talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'm going to try and be a guest on that show, and I'm just going to show up wearing clown makeup.
How about coffee-induced panties? No need for coffee in the AM before work. My question is, how is the caffeine consumed? Do you wear the panties or do you eat the panties? These are the questions that we do not have the answers for at this time.
I think those answers are better left to your imagination for anyone who is listening to us. So if you've been with us for the last 95 minutes, we want to say thank you. If you came in late, you missed a bit of the opening that explained why I was in this chair. If you did go back to the top of the show and listen to the full reasoning, but of course, we'll just say that, Sean has been dealing with a personal family situation that is going to be keeping him out of this chair for the next little while. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family, of course, at this time. Anything you guys want to say really quickly before we go into the full-on wrap-up?
Eat panties.
It's,
well,
right
you can always check us out at,
that was the
Fandom
next part.
Empire 10 on
Yeah, that was the next
Facebook. You can check me out personally at TommyB1650 on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, support our socials.
Kieran, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at the Rick and Morty Fan Show on Facebook. You can find me on the Fandom Empire on Facebook. I'm going to start kind of posting more of my Rick and Morty content there because we're getting a good crossover lately. Some of the Fandom Empire fans are more into that show. You can find me on Twitter at Gogan Kieran, my name reversed. You can find me on Instagram at the Rick and Morty Fan Show. And if I could announce, on June 22nd, I'm having a really big fan show, a really big Rick and Morty fan show giveaway. I'm going to do lots of giveaways. I'm going to have a really big show based on the fact that season 5 of Rick and Morty is starting. So that's a big show. Earmark it. If you guys are kind of like, I go every once in a while, show up on June 22nd because there's going to be giveaways and fun stuff, and it's going to be the biggest show we've had yet.
And you can, of course, find me here, there, and everywhere. But, of course, mostly you can find me at the Bros Before Pros Twitch, Twitter, YouTube page, where we'll be back this weekend. Obviously, there's not going to be a Wastelands this week, so we're not going to be co-streaming that stuff. But we'll be back this weekend streaming something, who knows what, probably a bit of Maneater and some baseball, who knows what else. And, of course, as I said off the top of the show, you can find my new project, the Inside Handoff podcast, where we talk professional football. That's National Football League football. I don't know if we've got any European listeners who hear football and think we're talking about soccer. Obviously, we're not doing that. Although I have to admit, it would be a little humorous listening to one of my co-hosts try and talk football for the length of a podcast. But okay. That's going to do it for us here tonight. This has been Fandom Empire Live, episode 101 for Kieran, for Tommy, Johnny V, and of course, although he's not here with us in person, he is of course always in here with spirit, good old Sean. This has been Fandom Empire Live. Tune in Thursday night for the next episode of Fandom Empire Live with me and Zach. Tune in IPC Friday night, and we'll be back here again live next Tuesday night. Good night, everybody.
Eat panties. Na na na